When working with audio files in a Pro Tools session, you have both the sample rate and bit depth that you need to be concerned with. As you remember from prior discussions, Pro Tools supports a couple different formats and subsequently derivatives of those. So 48 kilohertz, 96 kilohertz, 192 kilohertz, and 44.1, 88.2, and 176.4. These are all kilohertz, and they're all derivatives of these two numbers. In addition to that, Pro Tools also supports 16, 24-bit, and with Pro Tools 10, 32-bit float point. In Pro Tools, your sample format always has to match. So if you have a Pro Tools session that you're working on that is a 48 kilohertz session and you want to import an 88.2 sample rate audio file into your session, you're going to have to convert that. So any sample rate that does not match your currently open Pro Tools session will have to be converted upon import. In Pro Tools 10, and this is a new function with Pro Tools 10, we now support all three of these bit depths. So you can have a 16, a 24, and or a 32-bit depth file working inside of Pro Tools, and those do not need to be converted to work properly. So sample rate needs to be converted, and bit depth does not. Pro Tools also supports a variety of audio file formats. We've discussed this briefly. The two main types we can have inside of Pro Tools are an AIFF file and a WAV file. These are the two file types that Pro Tools supports. Pro Tools also allows you to import other files, but it will convert them to one of these two file types. There are SD2 files, which is an early version of a Pro Tools audio file type. Also, we just mentioned AIFF. Those will not need to be converted if you import them into Pro Tools. There is also a compressed version of an AIF file called an AIFC. That would need to be converted upon import. A WAV file, which you know Pro Tools already supports, so no conversion there. These two audio file types, AIFF and WAV files, do not need to be converted unless your sample rate of your session is different than the sample rate of these existing files that you may be wanting to import. We can determine in Pro Tools the sample rate and bit depth of our session quite easily. We can go up to the Setup drop-down menu and select Session, or use the shortcut Command-2. And you will see it brings up this Session Setup dialog box. Shows us that our present sample rate is 44.1 kilohertz, and our bit depth is presently 24. But as you can see, this can be changed because Pro Tools supports all three bit depths within one session. Also, as you remember, Pro Tools supports both WAV and AIFF files, so we could also change those midstream as well. So we can have a Pro Tools session that would have both WAV and AIFF files within it, as well as multiple bit depths. However, again, all audio files must have the same sample rate to operate properly. If they don't, they will be converted upon import. Pro Tools can also import a variety of video file formats. The most common that will work cross-platform is a QuickTime file. That is a video file type developed by Apple years ago. It will work just fine in Pro Tools either on a PC or a Mac. In addition, Pro Tools will also read Avid video files. So QuickTime and Avid video files are the two video file types that are supported in Pro Tools. Pro Tools also supports two stereo file types. These are audio files. One is called split mono, and the second type is called stereo interleaved. Now these two audio file types essentially give us the same functionality, but they operate differently. A split mono stereo track is a stereo track that contains two mono files that will be panned hard left and right. A stereo interleaved file is one file but contains both channels of the information. So they effectively sound the same, but they operate a little differently. One is two files and one is one file. If we go back here to Pro Tools and look at our session setup again, which you can access here under Setup, Session, and Command 2. You'll notice there's this interleaved button. This changes the way Pro Tools operates or looks at or records stereo files. If this is selected, when you record a file, a stereo file, it will record it as a stereo interleaved file, so one file with both channels of information. If it's unchecked, it will work in the traditional way that Pro Tools operates, which is to record using two split mono files to create a stereo file.